Off the block, hopped in the phone and pushed the top back. I've been hustling for a long time and I can't stop that. Big like I'm that, best believe it, and them all back. Yeah, I be ballin' all the time. I'm point guard and a quarterback.
Hey, welcome back to another Spotlight interview. My name is Tyler Butler. I'm your host with Sports and Coaches Sports Media. All of our interviews are brought to you by the Carolina Law Group. Make sure you get your free consultation today by visiting www.thecarolinalawgroup.com. I have an extremely special guest with me today. It is someone that I look up to in the media field. She is an author, sports reporter, motivational speaker, Hall of Famer, and more. Renee Washington. Renee, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thank you for having me. You got me bumping. That was a nice intro.
Hey, I appreciate it.
Loved it. I love that intro clip. So happy to be here, though, Tyler.
I'm stoked. A little nervous because you are, as I mentioned before, someone I do look up to in the media field. So again, just thank you for taking time out for me today.
Yeah, of course. We're just having a conversation, so no worries.
Yeah, that's it. Just a one-on-one spotlight interview, I like to call them.
Yeah.
So I always like to start everything from the very beginning, Renee. Let's go back to young Renee Washington. Like when a teacher asked you what you wanted to be when you grew up, do you remember what you told the teacher?
I actually remember clear as day a project from kindergarten that I did, and I've never wanted to be one thing. It's actually kind of remarkable. Even as a kid, I was like, everybody just had that one dream job. I wanted to be a professional WNBA player, a vet, and I wanted to be a lawyer. And so it's funny because that evolved. So then when I was growing up, that was like elementary school. I always wanted to be a professional athlete. And then I wanted to be a pediatrician because I loved working with kids and I loved helping. So it's just funny, like, although I'm not doing any of the work, well, I shouldn't say any, but I'm not doing the work that I wanted to do as a kid in the sense of a title. I'm still doing the same underlying principles and concepts. So there you go.
Yeah, they're all kind of just tying in together as well. So what was it about like working with kids that interested you the most?
I've always just been passionate about being able to help and being able to give back, and I just think that there's such a need for it, especially since I've had people in my own life that have been very impactful in helping inspire me, whether it was as an athlete, as a coach, and now as a reporter and business owner and all the different hats that I wear. So I think there's just so much value in being able to have representation and somebody that cares enough to take time to have a conversation with you or speak at an event or just say hi. So even now, like I find myself anytime I'm out at a game or an event, I always make an effort to say hi to people, whether they're adults or kids, because you just never know. And we've all been through so much. So if I could be that glimmer of positivity for someone to help in some powerful way and make an impact, why not? But I've always had the idea, like when I think back to everything I've always wanted to do and all my dreams and visions, I mean, at the core of it was always helping. I've always been big about kids, animals, just helping in general, of just doing something positive.
Dan, you make, such a good point there because people do look up to you, from young kids to even adults. So that one glimmer of hello, a conversation could, change everything for them. So that is awesome sound advice. Now, I know, you mentioned you wanted to be a WNBA player. Most athletes grow up playing different sports. You are now in the Hall of Fame for soccer. Was there a particular sport that you loved playing the most when you was young?
Yeah, it was soccer. It was definitely soccer. My parents were very supportive growing up and that they allowed my siblings and I to play every sport. I come from a sports family, so both my parents played college sports. My dad actually played professional basketball overseas. I've got uncles and grandparents and aunts and cousins that have all played a variety of different sports. So I do truly come from a sports family where our best memories, vacations, moments were just somehow involving sports, whether it was watching them, playing them, whatever it may have been. So I played every sport. I was not good at every sport. Like softball, for example, I was not good at softball. I was okay. I mean, was okay at swimming, but it wasn't anything to pursue a swimming career in. So I tried every sport, and just for me, it was basketball, track, and soccer that stuck. So naturally, being that soccer was my best sport, it was the one that I could play the most confidently, the one that I could play with a little bit the most ease in that sense, where I could just play with anybody, boys, girls, older, younger, it didn't matter. I would play pickup all the time. I played with my older sisters and their teams. I just played all the time. And so soccer was definitely that sport for me, without a doubt.
And, just to piggyback off of that, with you guys, by you saying you come from a family full of athletes, how competitive was it in the household growing up?
It still is. It's still very competitive. Well, we just had an air hockey tournament the other day, and fingers got taken off and everything. Like this is no joke. So it's funny because if anybody I feel like people know me now as like Renee the sports reporter. I am a crazy competitor. Like I am. I live in the mantra of like, it's not a foul unless you're bleeding. We're not stopping until I win. Like I'm a true competitor. So that all started as a kid, and that passion of just growing up. Now, everybody's not as bad as me. I'm definitely the worst in my family. I can openly admit that. But we'll cheat, we'll talk junk, we'll get into arguments, we'll still even as adults. So it's great though, because that's something that my family, like the foundation of us around sports and competition and fun and games, has always been a part of my life, even literally to a couple of days ago when I got beat in air hockey. But
oh man,
I haven't played in a while. I'm a little out of practice, and my brother and sister have been playing a little bit more than me. So I'll be back.
I mean, it takes a lot to admit when you lost, especially as a competitor.
I can't win them all. Honestly, I used to cry when I lost, and I can openly admit that because I was like a whole grown adult still crying. So this was not just as a kid, but I just love competing and I love winning. And I've always been someone that, like, it was the running joke in my family, since I'm the middle child too, that like I was the worst one to play games with, because I was the one that would say, we're not leaving until I win. I don't care how many card games, board games, I don't care how much we played. We are sitting at this table until I either win or I have a game that I feel comfortable stepping away from. So even now, as I'm almost 30 years old, I will still be like, I don't know, man. I haven't won. Or I'm the opposite. I'm like, I talk trash so bad. So you know when I'm winning and you know when I'm losing. And I don't know which is worse, but it's both pretty bad.
Yeah. We might have to get the backstory on that to see which one was the worst, the winning Renee or the trash talking Renee.
I think the losing is definitely the worst, because I always, my quote is, I hate losing more than I love winning. So I can't.
That's the mentality really of the best athletes. You hear so many stories about Michael Jordan, about how he would stay up for hours playing card games because he lost and he wanted to win all his money back before he stopped playing.
It's normal.
Yeah, it's normal. Don't even feel bad about it at all. So, like, soccer wise, when did it kick in for yourself when you just sat back and was like, you know what, I'm pretty damn good at this?
It wasn't really until I got to. So I was always the kid. It wasn't really until I got to high school. I was not good from the beginning. I was actually awful when I first started. I thought I was pretty good, and come to find out years later, I was terrible. And by years later, I mean, like, I just found out recently that I was actually awful in those like early 5, 6, 7-year-old years of just standing there in the middle of the field, game all around me, had no idea what was going on, completely lost, biting my nails, not doing anything. But then it clicked, and I've always been very athletic, and I've always been very fast. Again, it's funny because nobody knows this side of me, but I was the kid that was winning all the races in school and playing all the sports in gym class with all the kids and stuff. And so I started it started from me being the best kid in rec. And then I was on playing travel, and I became one of the best kids in travel in the area. And then I just slowly, my bubble just kept growing. And then eventually it got to me being on a regional level, then a national level, that I was just continuing to raise the bar. So as I grew older, the bar continued to raise higher. And I remember there was like soccer games, I'd score like 5 goals in the game. And this was not when you're like 5 or 6. This was like travel competitive soccer. Like I was a goal scorer. I was a kid that just was hungry and passionate and aggressive. And I played every position. And so when I got to high school is when it started to get more refined, because the high school team was the number one team in the country when I was there. I was playing with obviously such a wide range of ages, and then also started tapping into what's called ODP, which is like the national team for youth
Okay.
level. So I started tapping into that and playing. So my bubble was growing. And so it was challenging me. It was forcing me to grow. It was also forcing me to like really refine myself as a true goal scorer, person that was getting assists, midfielder, forward. Instead of playing every position, I started like getting more refined in my positions and just maturing too. So yeah, I would say it just slowly, gradually over time happened. And then I was playing my best soccer when I got to college. I was a late bloomer. I peaked very late. And so as a kid that was like tall and lanky and faster than everyone, winning fitness tests, scoring from anywhere and everywhere and doing whatever. I slowly started to get more confident. I started to have a better idea of what I was capable of. And when you know your potential and your talent, then the sky's the limit,
Oh, absolutely. So do you remember what your parents' reaction was when you told them that you was going to get a scholarship for soccer?
Yeah, so my parents are very actively involved. I mean, my dad actually coached me in club soccer, so they knew before I did, to be honest.
Mm,
And that was just the makeup of my family, where like I was fortunate that through my process, I had two parents that had college degrees that had gone through the process themselves. Of course, in a much different time, and they actually were the ones that really helped put themselves through college. So they wanted to make sure that my siblings, that I had that support and had the guidance, and having, whether it was on the academic side or the athletic side. So I did get an athletic and an academic scholarship to play. So I got a full ride to LaSalle, which I'm ironically wearing a shirt today. But it was my parents that literally went through that process with me, especially my mom, of emailing coaches, reaching out, setting up visits, doing all of that to make sure that I was able to find the school that was the right fit for me.
And I kind of like asking our athletes around our age this: how different was it recruiting wise, like before the social media thing? Because it's
Oh,
like now, yeah, you can market yourself as a middle schooler on Twitter, and people will find you that way. So, can you explain kind of like what the difference was from you getting recruited, being an elite prospect, to how it is now with recruitment?
yeah, with any type of change, there's always a good and a bad that comes with it. I would say definitely the good is that they're, like you said, athletes and kids are able to get their videos out there and really brand themselves in that sense. The same way we brand ourselves in our shows and in our content that we're doing, that now kids are able to do the same thing. Now, the downside of that is it is unfortunately forcing them to have to think about things that they really shouldn't be thinking about in middle
Mm,
school.
right.
I actually was fortunate that I got to see the recruiting side in through many different lenses as a player, but then also coaching college soccer at Lehigh, and then also a youth soccer coach where I was the one helping connecting my players to college coaches. So I've seen it from all the different lenses, and of course as a reporter as well, and just seeing the pressure that it adds, that now you're not just thinking about going out and playing with your teammates. You're thinking, I've got to chase the best teams and I've got to spend money on this and this. And it almost forces the kids to have to grow up sooner. Whereas when I was growing up, I didn't commit until October of my senior year. And it's not because I didn't have options. It's because there was just no rush. You took your time. The earliest some would commit. Like I had a friend of mine, a teammate that played at UNC in Chapel Hill. So she was a highly regarded recruit, and she committed, I want to say, sophomore year officially. There were those that were committing early, but it wasn't as common. Traditionally, it was like junior year, early senior year.
Right.
And so now to see kids that by their freshman year have an idea of where they're going, and even in middle school are just chasing, chasing, chasing. I just think it's a testament to how social media in general is forcing kids to grow up faster. They're getting access and exposure to too many things, which is good from one sense of, like you said, the videos. But on the other side, do you really need to see all that? If you're playing in soccer in New Jersey, do you need to see what every other kid is doing and be so now mentally trying to juggle all those things when you should really just be focused on being a kid? So I've heard the comments. I've seen it. I've seen parents that are literally ready to just throw out all thousands and thousands of dollars to try to pay for this and that because they are chasing. When in reality, like I always try to tell people, there's a college for everyone. You know, if you're an athlete or not, there's a college for everyone. There's so many different levels, different teams, campus sizes, programs, styles of play that you will find a school for you if you just do your due diligence. But you don't have to rush and you never have to chase anything or force it. You just have to give it time to happen. So yes, I have seen it firsthand, unfortunately, and it's not for the better in some aspects.
There's a college for everyone. That needs to be on a billboard. 'Cause I'm telling that particular part is not focused on enough. I think
It's
a
not.
lot of these kids are looking at it like there's not enough colleges out here, and I need to put this highlight tape together, or I need to call the recruiters. My mom needs to call the recruiters. They will find you.
Paying people to be your recruiting person when they're kind of just stealing your money.
That's a
Or
difference.
paying people to come out and record your games, and you can really record your games through so many different other ways. I mean, it's just I didn't even realize like my school was a small school. There are schools that have 50, 60,000 students. There's a college literally for everyone. And we're not even talking outside the United States if you want it to be go international. So yeah, it's a shame, but that's the world we live in, that everybody is
Yeah.
ready to like throw money out and everything is just moving so fast all the time.
Yeah, that's some sound advice. I'm definitely gonna get that message out to the kids. So let's go to present day. You are, as I mentioned before, definitely one of the women in sports that I look up to. What I'm trying to think how to question this. When you first got that ESPN microphone, because it seems like that's the mecca for everyone who's starting off in sports. They want to work for ESPN. What was that feeling like for you? Just to hold a microphone and knowing
Yeah.
that you're there.
Yeah, it's crazy because something I've had to learn is that a lot of things that we are working towards and that we're aspiring to do aren't going to look like we envisioned. So, like what you want and the reality of what you actually get, it's going to be different. And for me, I had all these goals and this bucket list of things that I wanted to do in my career. And when I landed that first TV job, when I landed my first live sports coverage, when I landed ESPN is definitely a good example. It's humbling, but also it was the reminder that I still had more work to do. I started working with ESPN actually through the Ivy League network. And then when colleges started partnering with ESPN for their college broadcast and started bringing in outside personalities instead of just hiring the traditional like internal staff from their athletics department, I found myself now holding an ESPN mic and being an ESPN reporter. And so it's not even something that I actively knew was happening. It was just through me grinding, continuing to do what I do best, that I found myself standing there on the sidelines with a mic in my hand. So I think that it's something that is so empowering when you understand that every move you make, you don't even know in that moment how much it's helping you and what it's leading you to. I didn't purposely seek them. And they didn't actually, they technically did seek me. It just organically happened over time. So again, like I said about my soccer career, I think that everything in reporting to me is such a mirror so much that I dealt with in my own playing career that's what keeps me going. Because like I said earlier to your question about when did you know you were good? I didn't. It just organically happened over time. Same thing in reporting. I didn't expect to be at ESPN. I didn't expect to be working in professional sports. I am in year 6. I haven't actually been doing this that long. My undergrad degree is not in broadcasting. I didn't have college internships. I didn't have the same traditional background that others had, but here I am. So I have learned that it's not, and I'm struggling with this myself every day. I'm not perfect at this, but just to keep going. And it's not going to be what you look like. And you never know what's behind each door, but keep opening those doors. Keep moving forward. Keep finding ways to evolve and do more. But when I stood there, it was like, I'm here. But then it was also like, but I'm not done yet because I'm not working in Bristol, Connecticut or Los Angeles. I need to keep moving here. And if I could do this without the knowledge and without the awareness of really what's possible, let me start tapping into more about who I am as a reporter so I can keep moving and raising the bar. So it was incredible.
Is there anyone in particular who, because you're motivating so many in your position that you're in, but who motivates you? Who did you
A lot
look
of
up to
people.
in sports reporting?
Yeah, a lot of people. I think the best thing that has helped me is I have influence and support from a lot of different people. My family, of course, being that I am from that sports family, so they're like my fans, cheerleaders, coaches, critics. Especially my brother and my dad. Like, have you seen this? Or what do you say? Why did you say this? Like, correcting me, checking me. Like, my entire family is a sports family, so they keep me grounded as to like what I down from to what I'm saying, what I'm wearing, what I'm doing. I've got friends that keep me going, that are like that village I can tap into and get feedback from. And then also, even like we talked about earlier with the kids, I have had parents and kids that have reached out and said thank you, or because of you I am here, or even I had a player, a student, write a letter to me saying that years ago, and I haven't talked to her in years. So years ago, the impact that I had on her life and how I was just so impactful in helping her. You just really never know who's watching in this, especially in this industry. You never know who's watching. If I'm on a TV screen, I don't know who's on the other side of that screen. I'm looking at a camera and a cameraman and producer in my ear. I have no idea all the other people that are watching. So to hear people say, because of you, my son or daughter wants to do this, and this, that's what keeps me going, because that's exhausting. I'm not gonna lie. It takes a lot, but that you're paving the way for others. Others have opened doors for me, and it's my turn to now reach back and extend the olive branch to help the next generation along. So I've got a lot of inspiration, and you need that though, because when those days are hard, if you only
Mhm.
had that one source, it's going to be kind of hard to keep moving. But if you've got multiple, sources of motivation, and now I've got a niece and a nephew that are babies. So my nephew's like, it's Auntie Nay on TV. Like that. I love that. I love getting those videos from my sister and brother-in-law after I'm done a game of my nephew. Like, it's my auntie. I love that. And I hope that I can continue providing that inspiration to somebody, you know?
Yeah, that part, you never know who's what. I try to tell myself that all the time.
You never know.
And a few people that I have underneath me as well that wants to get into the field that you're in. I'm like, hey, just keep going. You never know who's watching. And I have plenty of down moments where I'm like, this is not going anywhere. But I have my support system, just like you were saying, like, hey man, keep
Mhm.
going. You never know who's looking at what you're doing and when your time is going to be there. It can
Facts.
happen organically, just like what happened with your career.
And you got
Uh,
to be ready.
yeah, got to be ready. I think I'm
Mhm.
ready. Hopefully, everybody else can see that as well. But, um, and like you said kind of earlier, you do wear many hats: sports reporter, motivational speaker, author, model. If you could only pick one though and eliminate everything else, what would that one area of focus be?
Oh, I don't even know. I think, I don't know, because they all kind of go hand in hand. It's like I feel like through my work as a sports reporter, I find myself naturally giving motivational conversation, like
Mhm.
thoughts and points. I would say I would definitely stick with being a sports reporter. That's my first love, and that's what has been helping me to be able to use my platform to tap into these other areas. So it's like through sports reporting that I'm able to connect with people like yourselves and businesses and events, and be able to grow the other work that I'm doing. But also, since sports that is my first love, I know I probably would not be able to have the same excitement if I didn't have sports involved every day like I do. So definitely that. But that's a really hard question, and I wouldn't. I think I'd have to pick two. So
Too okay. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Now,
yeah, like modeling can go. That's stressful. Being a business owner is actually pretty cool. Like, I
yeah,
really am enjoying that, the challenges that come with that. Plus, I'd like to think I'm good at people management and task management. So I feel like I'm pretty good. And then being an author is something that I haven't even fully tapped into yet. So we'll see what that holds as I publish my books. So I'm going to stick with sports reporter. Long
I
story.
got you. Yeah, and to go off the business part, like what made you start your organization Planet Not Buried?
COVID. Seriously. Um,
Okay.
so it's crazy because, like I said, everything always just happens in a unique way that you don't really know. Like you plan it, you think of it, but the reality versus the vision is totally different. And I definitely have had this vision, honestly, since I was a kid, of just wanting to do something to give back. I wanted to help the homeless. I wanted to help, food shortage. I wanted to help poverty. I wanted to do all these things that, when you're just a kid, it's like, oh, wow, that sounds good. But I really I was serious about it. This was not just me saying these lofty things. And so I had this vision of, and I've always said this from the very beginning, and actually I remember writing this down on my very first website I ever had, on Weebly, back then when I used to use Weebly. And it was like, I want to use my platform to provide a voice for the voiceless. I want to use my platform to give back. And especially knowing the fact that as a sports reporter, you do have an audience in that sense. You've got people that are tapped in a little bit more, that might listen to you a little bit more, follow you more. And I wanted to use that for something bigger than myself. And so it was through the pandemic, when everything was chaotic, that I was able to kind of reflect a little bit more on what I'm doing. And it forced me to have to realize that the ideas I had were ready. And like you actually were saying earlier, of like, I hope I'm ready. Like, we're always, as people, I feel like we're always thinking, oh, I hope I'm ready. I'm not ready yet. If I just got to do this, this, and this. No, 99% of the time you are ready. You just got to take that extra push. Like, you just need that extra nudge to help you get going. And so when everything went virtual in the pandemic, it was like the light bulb moment of, wait a minute, I can do this. And actually, it would make more sense, because the whole concept behind Planted Not Buried is to create the village. Everybody talks about it takes a village. I'm creating the village. So you now have resources, events, networking opportunities. It's literally for any professional, any age, any background, to have a chance to tap in to free resources, whatever it is you're looking for, whether it's an article that you want to read with information, some educational pieces, an interview, an event, whatever it is, to provide that. And I kept thinking small-minded of, how can I do that in my own backyard? Not realizing that through the virtual space, you have unlimited access and resources. So now I can reach, and I've been reaching people all around the world. I've got people in other continents and beyond just my little bubble. So it's crazy, because the pandemic and being able to have, and I was hosting like virtual webinars and things, really opened my eyes to the fact that I was even thinking too small in my business model. So it was COVID that literally gave me that extra push to take the first step and just start where I was, which was creating a website, creating a Slack channel, and then from there, creating social media pages, hiring people now, having, people I'm able to bring on board and give them jobs and responsibilities that they can now add to their own resume and portfolio. So it's remarkable what happens in those uncertain times, when you when your back's against the wall and it's like, what the heck am I going to do now? That some of the best ideas come from that, but literally COVID.
And
So,
last question, because I don't want to hold you too long.
no worries, I'm having fun.
Thank you so much. I'm a huge advocate in women in sports. This is the main purpose of our interview today. Women in sports segments. We do a lot covering women's basketball, from Pop Warner all the way up to the WNBA. Those that want to get into this field, and I hear a lot about some of the difficulties and obstacles you have to overcome as a woman in sports. What advice would you have for them? Even if they're still in high school, haven't even taken a course of any type of sports journalism, but they see Renee and say, hey, that's what I want to do after I graduate high school. What type of advice would you have for that young girl?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I think for anybody that is in high school or college and already knows this is what they want to do, you're already ahead of the game, because there are many like myself that did not realize that until I was in grad school when I made the plunge and that leap of faith. So, I think if you already have something that you're passionate about, and it's sports reporting or any sort of, there's so many jobs in this industry, producing, writing, editing, whatever it may be. Get started. There's so many ways that you can, within your own resources. We're on StreamYard right now. There's social media. You can write a blog. You can have a YouTube channel. There are so many ways that you can be able to get started in creating your own content, that you don't have to wait until you have that job, that degree, those classes. If you have a passion for something, find a way to make it happen. And that's for any gender and anybody. And then for women especially, but again, for everybody, it's not going to be easy. There's going to be a lot of challenges. There's going to be a lot of tough times where your credibility, your knowledge, your reputation is questioned. I mean, I still every once in a while, not as much anymore, but we'll have people that'll question, like, what do you know about sports? And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. Where do I begin? So, you always have to be continuing to find ways to prove yourself, to learn, to grow, but know that it's not going to be easy, which is why you can't do it yourself. You do need that village. You do need people around you, those friends, those supporters, colleagues that you can turn to that can help you through those tough times. But be ready for a fight. As a woman in sports, and for anybody in sports, whether you're a woman, a minority, because racial, gender, whatever it is, it's always going to be a fight. It's an industry that is not for the weak. And I find myself saying that more now than ever. You have to be tough. You've got to be resilient. You've got to be able to bounce back. You've got to be creative, but you've got to be passionate about it. Because at the end of the day, with all these different things going on, if you aren't truly in it for the right reasons, you're not going to make it. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So if you're ready for that quick fix of I want to be on ESPN, I want to be on SportsCenter, I want to be on Fox Sports because of the glam and the being able to talk to celebrities and my favorite players, you might not make it as long. But if you're in it for the right reasons and you're doing the right things day after day, you'll get there. But you just got to stay the course because we all started somewhere, Lord knows. But yeah, I got tons of advice because I find myself having conversations with people all the time about just the fact that this industry is fun and exciting, but it's also exhausting and challenging and really checks you a lot as you're moving through.
Yeah, not to mention social media, Twitter.
Oh my gosh, that's a whole other layer in itself between the trolls and even comparisons that we naturally get into as people of like, what's that person doing over there? So much that goes into it mentally, emotionally, physically, financially, as we were talking about having other jobs. Yeah. So yeah, I think my big three that I always tell people is make sure you have financial stability. So you typically, especially when you're just getting started, it's a job outside of reporting, something flexible, something that gives you income that now you don't have to be desperate in your career. You can just enjoy focusing on, like, a lot of my initial roles were either unpaid or just very low, but I needed them for that experience. So have that fallback job that, like, okay, they're going to give me flexibility, but most importantly, they're going to give me stability. Make sure you're also creating your own. That's my second thing, like a podcast, like I said, YouTube channel, blog, whatever it is, create your own and then actively create it like you have done with yours, with branding and an intro and pieces that separate it from other people. So it's not just another piece of content. And then definitely be making sure that you're constantly finding ways to grow, learning, shadowing people, networking, whatever that may look like, because you can't get stagnant and complacent. Otherwise you're not moving forward.
Yeah. And real quick, because you touched on a really good point. The unpaid, there's a lot of, especially in this field, you're not going to get the funds you think you're going to get. There are also going to be a lot of internships just to build your type of platform. I don't know how many things I've done for free and still doing for free because I'm trying to build that brand out there. And I think that's a real big misconception in the sports media business, where thinking people are looking at it and thinking it's instant cash flow because they see ESPN and Fox Sports and Bally Sports and all. It's a lot of grind. It's a lot of hard work, and there may be a lot of jobs that you have to do for free just to build your brand. And you being in that position, just quickly, can you talk about that portion?
No, I'm glad you asked, because aside from even unpaid, like, I remember some of my very early freelance opportunities, I was getting paid $25 for the game, and the game was anywhere from 30 minutes to like 2 hours away from me. Granted, gas prices were not as high back then as they are now. So your gas got you a little further. But if anybody could do some math real quick in your head, $25 to drive 2 hours for a game that's going to be 2 hours and then a 2-hour drive back, you're taking 6-7 hours out of your day because you got to get dressed and eat and everything and prep for it. So at least 6-7 hours out of your day for $25. This is this it. And now because I'm still freelancing with a lot of things. Now when I freelance, I'm not going to drop numbers out there, but I'm getting paid much, much more than that. So it is a grind. And that's why a lot of people don't make it, because if you're going into it thinking by year one, I'm going to be making X amount of money, you're in it for the wrong reasons. And I had a mentor that told me that when I first started, like, you're going to go from making little to nothing, barely making minimum wage, to making nearly 6 figures. Like, it's a jump, but you don't get that jump if you drop out too soon. So I personally can say I've had so many unpaid shows, jobs, low paying freelance opportunities. But then as your value raises and as you now grow your portfolio and the work you're doing, what you're making will also increase. Like ESPN, I'm making way more with ESPN, even staying within ESPN now than I was when I started. My value, the price has gone up, as we say. Yeah. So you got to stay in it, and you have to be willing to put in the grind, because I know, unfortunately, with like the influencer model, people are making thousands, millions of dollars for a post. That's not everywhere. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's not everywhere. So you might have to work a day and make $25 for that day, but it'll, in 4 or 5 years, that $25 is an investment towards you making much more.
Man, I feel like we went to church today. This was spectacular. Like, oh my God, I'm so happy you came on today. There's so many quotes I'm pulling from this show.
I love that. I love that. You ask great questions, so you just help me keep going.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, to kind of end everything off, if you can let everybody know if you have anything coming up and where they can follow you on social media.
Yeah, I've always got something I'm working on. So definitely check me out. My social media, honestly, is very easy to find. Renee P. Washington across everything. My website, reneepwashington.com. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, now TikTok, LinkedIn, literally every social media platform, YouTube, at Renee P. Washington. And then Planted Not Buried is also super easy to find. Planted NB is our handle for everything, as well as our website, plantednb.com. So I am so appreciative for you having me on, giving me these thought-provoking questions, allowing me to take a trip down memory lane, because even I, too, am struggling with some of these same questions and challenges currently. So it's always good to have a chance to chat with you and to be able to see all the great things you've got going on with your show.
Thank you. That means a lot, a lot. Trust me. I'm recording that part and playing it over and over.
Oh, look, I see that your grind does not go unnoticed. I see what you've been working on. I see what you've been doing. So, just keep finding a way to continue with all that you've got going on to raise your bar too.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you for taking time out again and joining us again, guys. All interviews are brought to you by the Carolina Law Group. Make sure you go get your free consultation today by visiting thecarolinalawgroup.com. My name is Tyler Butler. This is Renee Washington. Thank you so much for tuning in.